Good morning everyone, and welcome to our third edition of Live Open Day from Polaris. We welcome you all here to be with us today. We have an amazing lineup ready for you and we're all super excited. This Open Day idea started out really as an experiment a few months ago when we first started trying to cope with quarantine, and due to popular demand we've kept it up. So the idea really of our open days is just to give you a glimpse of all the services that are out there and available for you, and we've actually realized the value of online support, and this is really what we're here to give you today, something of benefit for all of you in the comfort of your own homes. So we do hope you enjoy it. I'd like to say a little bit about myself for those of you who don't know me. My name is Cher. I'm a mother of two amazing children. I'm also a psychologist, and I am the managing founder of Polaris. A little bit about Polaris for those of you who are tuning in for the first time today. I won't go on too long because I'm sure many of you have heard this before. But the idea behind Polaris is that we are an interdisciplinary team of professionals all working under the same roof. So we come from different areas, different disciplines, and the idea is that we bring well-being to you. So I have worked in private practice for many years, and I was working on my own. I had a small clinic next to my house. And very early on I started to feel the need to collaborate with other professionals, because in reality I don't think that any one therapy as a standalone is enough to support people, and psychology also has its limitations. So by combining the skills from my colleagues in different professions, I found that I could help my clients even more. And then I came up with the idea of joining forces and becoming a team, and we found a premises big enough to host us all, and we took over a woodworks factory and we converted it into a well-being factory. So this is why we're called a factory. The idea of the factory is that you come here and we produce well-being in your life and in the lives of the people you care about. So currently we're over 40 professionals working at Polaris, and today you're going to get a taster of a few of those professionals, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy all of their talks. So that's a bit about Polaris. I can tell you the lineup for the day, which is going to be very exciting. We're going to start off with Sandy Sherry. Sandy doesn't need much introduction to many of you because she has been in the field for a very long time. Sandy is a business coach, a motivational speaker, a training consultant. She's been helping people out there for many years, and today Sandy is going to talk to us about our careers, primarily those of you who may be considering a career change. And I think COVID has made many of us sit and question if we're on the right path, and so Sandy is going to tantalize you with some questions that will help you reflect on this and maybe give you some practical advice about doing or making certain changes in your career. Following Sandy's talk, we're going to join in with Corinne. Corinne is a Gestalt psychotherapist and also a headmistress of a very big school. So Corinne comes to us blending her skills of being in education for many years, combined with psychotherapy, which obviously you can imagine what an enormous value that has. Today she's going to talk to us about emotional intelligence, with particular reference to emotional intelligence in the workplace when one is trying to manage and lead a team. Okay, so Corinne will come in with that. Following that, we also have a very interesting topic, which is back pain. This is going to be delivered by our physiotherapist Jade. Jade is also a seasoned professional. She's worked with many teams around Malta, specialized in the sports sector, and she's coming to us today to talk to us about what she calls the sitting disease, which I think many of us probably suffer from at some time in our lives. I will certainly tune in to Jade's talk myself because I do spend a lot of time at my computer or hunched over on a chair, so I'm looking forward to seeing what Jade is going to share with us today. Following that, we have Mike Orland. Mike is a family therapist, but Mike has also worked in the community for many years, helping families and helping individuals. He's going to talk to us today about coping really with family life during COVID and during this pandemic, with specific reference to perhaps some family issues that might be cropping up and how we might best deal with these issues as we go along. So looking forward to that, Mike. And last but not least, Rebecca Chadwick, our local clinical psychologist who needs very little introduction to you all. And Rebecca is going to hone in on her cognitive behavioral therapy skills, give a little bit of that to us, maybe in a very practical way, and give us some tips of how we can use CBT, as it's called, to cope with the changes in our lives. And I think that at the moment we are all going through some immense changes, and I'm sure that Rebecca's talk is going to help us, needless to say. So, before I pass you on to my amazing team of colleagues, I would just like to talk a little bit to you about the infamous work-life balance. So I'm sure many of you have heard these words flying around. Work-life balance has become a phrase at the tip of many people's tongues. And I think, in actual fact, work-life balance is what we are all striving to achieve. And it's no easy task. So I think what has happened with this pandemic hitting, I've seen two shifts in the community. I've seen people who have ended up with a lot more time on their hands and not really knowing what to do with that time. And I've also seen people whose workload has increased tenfold and are also struggling to balance things out. So I'm getting, a lot of requests from people asking me to support them in this type of work-life balance situation. So let's start by trying to understand exactly what this term means, work-life balance. So for some, it's just balancing out your work and life. But if we dig deeper into that, we have to understand what it really means. It's not just about, working during the week and having a little bit of time to yourself on the weekend. It's much more intricate than that. And I'd like to combine a little bit of psychological theory when I'm talking about work-life balance. Freud taught us that our psyche is made up of three main parts. So we have the superego, we have the ego, and we have the id. So starting with the id, because it's my favorite part, the id is that part of our psyche that is pleasure-seeking, that wants us to live life to the full and enjoy it to the max, and it's where our instincts and our drives stem from, okay? And then we have the superego, which is pretty much the opposite of our id, and the superego is that part of us what we call our conscience, so that part of us that is constantly telling us what we should do, what we ought to do, what we have to do, making long to-do lists which we tick off on a daily basis. It is our conscience, our sense of duty, our moral obligations, and all of this is part and parcel of the superego. And then somewhere in between we have the ego, which is a little bit like the referee between the two. So the ego tries to subdue the drives and the instincts of the id, whilst also it should be telling the superego to chill out, because there's more to life than just duties, responsibilities and obligations. So when we talk about work-life balance, it's not just a matter of sitting down and making a schedule and making a timetable and deciding, right, I'll work till 6 every day and the rest of the day will be free for me. It's also about sitting down with yourself and reflecting on your relationship with work and your relationship with life. So we need to ask ourselves some very important questions like, do I work to live or do I live to work? And for some people, working and living becomes synonymous. So then when they sit with you and say, I need to work on my work-life balance, it's very difficult to undo that. So I think before we start to talk about time management skills, which I will go into in a minute, we also need to appreciate there may be some blocks in your life which are inhibiting you from actually developing a healthy work-life balance. You may have, for example, an overly developed superego, which prevents you from even allowing yourself to enjoy yourself, from allowing yourself to relax, from allowing yourself to have fun. And in that case, that is something you definitely need to work on. On the other hand, I also meet people who have an overdeveloped id and are completely pleasure-seeking, shirking responsibilities and shirking their duties, and not really making that much of a valid contribution. So in that case, this is a case of looking to mature further psychologically. And I think the ideal would also be in developing our ego and finding the right balance. So I am comparing work-life balance today with development and maturity of the ego. So I think when we're talking about work-life balance, we have to ask ourselves a number of questions, as I was saying. How much time do you actually want to spend working? You need to decide that, okay? And some might say, I don't really have much choice how much time I spend working, but I do believe that we all have choice. If we knuckle down and we put our minds to it, we can somehow create the life that we choose. So we also need to ask ourselves, how much time do I want to spend enjoying myself, living, okay? Living as opposed to working. And are living and working synonymous to us? Are they the same thing? Or do you have hobbies outside of work? I've met a lot of people since quarantine hit who are absolutely stuck because without work they find themselves feeling meaningless and purposeless. And I think this is a moment, a very important moment. This is a moment that had to happen for these people because it's time to reflect and consider that there is more to life than work. And what is it that gives you joy? What is it that gives you satisfaction? What is it that makes you feel alive and human? So once we ask ourselves these questions and we take a deep reflection and we try to balance the superego and the id, it's then time to knuckle down on our time management. And I think time management is one of those skills that many people are after, and it's one of the most popular workshops we run here. And today I'm just going to give you some very practical time management tips that might be able to support you in your life right now during quarantine or even in the long run, okay? So I think the first word that comes to mind when we talk about time management is prioritizing, okay? We've all heard of procrastination, but there's also the other extreme of procrastination, which is an overly extreme sense of urgency. So we have the procrastinators who think that everything can be done tomorrow or the next day or the next day or the next day. And then we have those who have such a developed sense of urgency that everything needs to be done now. So I think you need to decide which one of these you are, where you fit mostly on this spectrum, and try and find the middle ground, okay? So neither is everything urgent, but neither can everything wait till tomorrow. And it's up to us to decide on a daily basis. This is a process, okay? On a daily basis, we need to sit with ourselves, maybe first thing in the morning, over our coffee or our breakfast, and say, right, what's on the agenda today? What's important today? What is urgent? What cannot wait till tomorrow? And literally start with those things, okay? And also be okay with putting the rest on hold. We don't need to do everything now. We don't need to do everything today. So knuckle down, figure out what is urgent, and the best thing is to get these urgent matters, the big tasks, the tasks that we really dread doing, out of the way as soon as possible. So we start with those. Once we have settled down and completed the task which is most burdening us, then we will be filled with motivation and excitement to continue the rest of our day. So that's one important rule: get the big tasks out of the way. Another very important thing is to try and create some kind of a schedule in our life. Especially in turbulent times, we find that resilient people are best at creating some kind of structure and schedule in their life. This doesn't mean we have to be very, very rigid with ourselves. It doesn't mean we have to follow a timetable and be obsessive about it and do things at the same time every day. This is not what I'm talking about. But actually having some kind of guiding structure that we follow on a daily basis. So in a sense, that would support us to put boundaries around our time. This is a very important word when we speak about time management: boundaries. Okay? So some kind of a system. For example, we can wake up at the same time every day. Ideally we do, because that's what's best for our neurotransmitters and hormonal balance. And then we start the day by getting our duties out of the way, as I said, for example, deciding how much time we're going to work. For example, I'm going to work 6 hours a day, and compartmentalizing that time whilst also finding time to do other things. So during this pandemic, I've supported many people to try and create some kind of a schedule and find this kind of work-life balance. And I'm suggesting 4 compartments on a daily basis, 4 neat compartments, which are time boundaried and done more or less at the same time every day. And what I'm suggesting to people is that you take control of your time, and every day you do these 4 things. The first one being a duty or a chore that you have to do. Okay? So let's say you need to wash the floor, get that out of the way, or you need to finish an important report for work. Whatever the case may be. So 1 task or duty a day. Second is to do something that gives you a sense of achievement. Now this could be work-oriented, or it could also be in your personal life, but anything that gives you a sense of achievement. It could be making pizza dough for the first time in your life. It could be going live on Facebook for the first time in your life. It could be, painting a wall. Whatever it is, and this is always unique to each individual, we are all very different. Whatever it is that gives you a sense of achievement, get that done too. Third thing is to do something every day that helps you feel connected with yourself or with the other. Okay? So connecting with yourself is a concept, that's been around a long time, and I think it's something that many people are forgetting how to do. So in order to connect with the self, we need silence, we need to be alone, and we can do things like meditate, pray, exercise, do yoga, write, go for a walk, whatever it may be, that gives us the opportunity to reflect and connect deeply with ourselves, or else to connect with the other. And if people aren't around, pets can also play a part here, but it's about feeling that external connection with another being. Okay, this could mean a phone call, it could be, writing a few messages to someone, or chatting to them online at the moment, or visiting when we eventually are allowed out of our houses. Okay, so connecting to the other. And the last thing, which is important to have in your schedule on a daily basis, and it's very, very important, is do something daily that gives you joy. And in today's day and age, life has become so fast, many of us have forgotten that seeking joy is an elementary part of life, and it's so very important. And I think without joy, we are joyless, and ultimately a lack of joy leads to dissatisfaction, sadness, depression, and ultimately, to feeling very, very unhappy. So I'll just repeat those 4 things which you might like to jot down and try and develop a schedule which revolves around these. So the first one was doing something on a daily basis that gives you a sense of achievement. The second one was a task or a duty that you need to get out of the way. The third one was something that helps you feel connected to yourself and to the other. And the fourth one, something that gives you joy. And this is what I mean when I talk about a schedule. It doesn't have to be a strict timetable, but actually having a rotation of these on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, that will give you a sense of balance in your life. Okay? So last, I would like to just hand over now to my colleagues. Before I do so, I'd just like to remind you that today's workshops are all coming voluntarily from our colleagues who have worked very, very hard to put these workshops together for you. As an organization, we are primarily self-employed, and so these times have been challenging for us. We're trying to keep the service afloat. So if you are in a position, only if you're in a position to give a small donation to Polaris to keep us going, we would greatly appreciate it. If not, of course, we totally understand, and your presence here today means so very much to us. Do remember that if you'd like to watch all of the talks that are going to be available for you through the day, you need to refresh your browser after every talk. We will give you a 5 to 10 minute comfort break between each talk. And also, please feel free to contact us. We are available by email. Ask us anything at polarisconsultancy.life. Feel free to send messages to our Facebook page. And feel free also to comment on the stream of the live videos as they go along. We are here for you to answer any questions whatsoever. So I won't keep you waiting too long. I'm going to hand you over now to my lovely colleague Sandy, who I'm sure is going to have so much to say to you about career choices and making career changes. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you enjoy the rest of the day, and do get in touch should you need anything at all. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.